what I have found is that the more I live the life, the more we got 2 acres, we got 8 or 9 food crops in already. I'm getting some citrus trees because I can do citrus there. And the more I live the spiritual and community life, the more fun it gets. Because there is obviously cognitive dissonance, as we were all raised as Petroleum Man. And becoming Post-Petroleum Human is going into the unknown. It's like, I don't know what's here. It's like going into the dark. But as you do it, I can tell you that the more you do it, the better it feels. And as I said in the movie, mankind was being faced with a choice, either evolve or perish, grow up or die. Some of us are evolving, and I really like what I'm seeing with that.
This is Peak Moment. We are living at a peak of human innovation, information, wealth, and health. But we're also at a peak of population and consumption, with rising temperatures and declining resources fueled by cheap oil and gas. Peak Moment Television, bringing you examples of positive responses to energy decline and climate change through local community action.
Hi, welcome to Peak Moment. I'm Janaea Donaldson. My guest today is the inimitable, unique Michael C. Ruppert, who is the author, the author of Crossing the Rubicon,
Yes.
which we've crossed,
Yes.
Confronting Collapse,
Yes.
here we are,
Yes.
and the CEO of CollapseNet.com.
And founder, yes.
And founder, right? Okay, Mike, today you gave us a presentation on Post-Petroleum.
Human.
What do you mean? What did you tell us?
There's a new species evolving. Long time ago, Cro-Magnon man and Homo sapiens existed side by side. Mm-hmm. Cro-Magnon went extinct. Now we live in a world where a new species called Post-Petroleum Man with a completely different consciousness. That's the only distinction. We don't have a different number of fingers. Our organs are in the same places and all that. But the evolution is a complete change in the state of consciousness. We're living essentially side by side, and the new species is emerging while Petroleum Man is rapidly going extinct.
And part of it's important that we're living side by side, because I think a lot of the challenge for people who are aware of peak oil, et cetera, and the things you're going to talk about, feel kind of crazy because we're here in a mainstream culture which says, that's not real. Mm-hmm.
Well, only as long as they choose to live in the delusional world of a dying species. Rather than step into an awareness and an active spiritual claiming of that which they are. Petroleum Man lived in an infinite growth economic paradigm, and his official religion was commercial advertising. Infinite growth was the religion, commercial advertising was the catechism and the ritual, and the means of inculcating the belief in the old paradigm. And of course, all of that's being proven to be a lie right in front of us. It's all falling apart. It's shredding. Yeah, it is like in the movie The Matrix. It's when Neo finally got to the core of the Matrix, and all of a sudden people started to look around and they could see glimpses of what they were really living in. But Post-Petroleum Man has a different state of consciousness, has a state of consciousness that originates from the innate understanding, before thought, before word, before writing, before the frontal brain clicks in, a knowing that the fundamental Bible, the fundamental law that we have to live by is the law of our relationship with Mother Earth, with this planet upon which we live, with all life upon it, with all resources on it.
Yeah.
When I was interviewed by the Wall Street Journal after the documentary Collapse came out, and with all the great reviews we got, and again, I have to tip my hat to Chris Smith, director Chris Smith of Blue Mark Films, who had won Sundance twice, brilliant filmmaker, and I yielded to him. I didn't interfere with the making of the film at all.
It was brilliant, man.
But after the film came out, I was interviewed as the great reviews were coming in, even from Wall Street Journal, and the Wall Street Journal reporter interviewed me and said, "So what's the point of your movie?" I said, "It's that infinite growth is not possible on a finite planet." And I just shut up. And you know, you could hear the shoe waiting to drop.
Oh
on the other end.
yeah, the Wall Street
And-
Journal. It's predicated on all of that.
Of course. And so what's become clear to me because of the movie, I was guaranteed a percentage of income based upon net profits, which is the way it works in Hollywood. I'm not Art Buchwald. That's a long story with Paramount. I've been around Hollywood too long. But the movie was pirated more than 2 million times around the world. It was turning up on BitTorrent sites in Romania, in India, in Thailand, in Indonesia, in Malaysia.
What a huge compliment.
But I got no income.
No account, yeah.
But you know, I wound up with 8,000 Facebook friends, and you know, but what that told me was that what I talked about in that movie, what Chris Smith brought out of me, and Chris Smith really did bring it out of me. There were 5 separate shoots. There was lots of video. Was a message that resonated all over the world. So the lesson from that for me was, oh my God, there's a whole lot of people who feel this way too. And yet, with a stigma, akin to the stigma of having been, let's say, a homosexual in the 1960s.
Okay.
There was no awareness of the power and the degree and how much that was a normal, natural, you know, it was there already. Okay? And so, as a result of that, we started CollapseNet a year ago. It'll be a year ago in June, which is just
in 2010.
Yeah,
Yeah, all right.
2010. We're now in 61 countries.
Yes. Yeah.
And these are real active thinkers who are members. These are, in some cases, government officials. I know of one head of state who is a member. I'm bound. These are people, and they're also representatives of communities of people. And this consciousness, this awareness that we have to make this transition, that we have to change and go back to living in balance with the earth. It's like been just waiting for somebody to step up and say something.
I think, Mike, in the landscape, you know, we taped you in '06, so we've got 5 years here.
Right.
The whole landscape has changed pretty radically in those 5 years. So I'm less surprised to have people, thoughtful people who are looking at the numbers saying, you know, the writing's on the wall here, than there were, say, 5 years ago. They're hearing your message. They're hearing it from you. And saying, okay, now what?
It's not my message.
Well, they're hearing, if you're talking about it from maybe it's a rising from the earth itself. And there are
Thank you.
speakers.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That she's saying, I'm in terrible distress, you know,
Yes.
and things are getting depleted, and can't keep it up this way.
No. And so what's happening now is clearly to me, and I've discovered a lot of writings over the last 2 or 3 years that have really been saying the same thing, that the only thing that will save Homo sapiens, or this thing that has 5 hands and all of our physical characteristics, will be a radical change of consciousness that will have to be so large and so profound that it will create a different species.
It's sort of hard to conceive of, you know, it's in terms of a different species, but
Yeah.
you gave us the good example. Okay, so tell us what would that new species, your glimpses of what that new species would be like.
Well, the new species will essentially be not much different from the species that existed 40,000 years ago, before we had written language, before we had cultivated grain, which is really the start of it, with the creation of the first surpluses. Because with the first surpluses with cultivated grain came fear that somebody was going to steal your surplus. Boom, that kind of set the whole thing in motion. We will have to return to a way of life that was intuitive, as in, and I'm just a bare beginning student in this, so I do not speak as an expert or as a shaman. Okay, I'm just, you know, I've had a few years to dip into it and seen the power. We have to return to a state of consciousness. Before there was a printed word, where the earth was a living Bible for us. We saw with direct cause and effect relationship and no lag between our actions, and there was no court to take action, nobody to file a report, nobody to analyze, nobody to file a lawsuit. Nature told you right away.
Sure, if you outfished this area, you starved,
Right.
or some equivalent.
Exactly. And you studied this, because it was sacred, because to not follow those rules meant you died. Okay, so what we have to do is kind of return to that. So in a way, a lot of what we're doing is just remembering what we were already programmed to know intuitively. That's what evolution had brought us to. But we cannot cut off what we have learned as a result of industrial civilization, as a result of the printing press, as a result of Cartesian logic, which needs to be dethroned as this tyrannical ruler of our universe. It's the universe is not measured with ones and zeros.
Yeah, it's not just the scientific method, say.
Right. The
Because
scientific
we're
method,
missing some things from that.
the scientific method can't measure heart and soul,
That's true.
but music sure can,
Yeah.
and so can
Yeah.
art,
Yeah.
and we all know that instantly,
Yeah.
don't we?
Yeah.
So we've been tyrannized by Cartesian logic. That's the Dick Cheney people, mindless government bureaucrats who believe that everything can ultimately be put in a computer program, or with the biggest computer, you can manage everything perfectly and everybody will be happy. So we can't lose what we've learned from the time that we left that state of pure interaction with nature. We have a wisdom, and it cannot be forgotten, because if we pretend to forget it, then the bad guys will remember it again, and we're going to be on the same. So we have to take what we have learned from this brief blip in history of human industrial civilization based on oil and coal. We have to take that back into the old way, and that will be a new species. That will be a new consciousness.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yes,
because
you got it.
because you're integrating levels of gaining information and observation,
Yes.
and how do we interact with the world, and,
Yes.
and working with theories and telescopes and all kinds of
Exactly.
tools that our predecessors 40,000 years ago didn't have.
Couldn't conceive of.
Yeah. Although they may have intuited. I mean, some of the wisdom that the shamans have carried forward reveal a way of being connected to the universe that we've lost.
Exactly.
So you're really talking about both of those.
Which will by definition in scientific terms result in a new species. And that's the only thing that's going to survive this. And what I'm saying is now, and what the speech was about today, and where I'm at CollapseNet, is that it is so abundantly clear to me now that our species is already here. We're already established. Just like when the dinosaurs died, the earliest mammals were already here and beginning to function that way.
Okay,
And although
okay,
they weren't
okay.
fully evolved as mammals, or as Homo sapiens as we are now, they had made that gigantic evolutionary step to a new place that enabled them to survive and evolve. Petroleum Man is dead. Infinite Growth Man is dead. Post-Petroleum Human is alive, but we're just like those early, we're just insignificant little blips on the
scatters,
landscape.
yes.
But we're getting stronger. And the reason why we're getting stronger is because the old paradigm, just like the paradigm of the dinosaurs, is collapsing. Peak oil is hit. It's the equivalent of the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs.
Okay.
The dinosaurs are dying. But the dinosaurs are only doing what the dinosaurs know how to do. They haven't...
More bigness, right? I mean,
more
more
bigness.
dinosaurness.
There's an old saying that when the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yes.
Okay, so the
yes.
dinosaurs are, and their maladaptive behavior is obvious. Like the Gulf of Mexico is safe now. It's okay to eat the seafood from the Gulf. Nuclear containment vessels couldn't possibly be breached.
In Japan, yes, right.
You know, it's like Barack Obama is now going to go drill in the Arctic National Wildlife Reserve, which we've already known doesn't have enough oil to justify anything. World leaders and world governments are failing in spades around us. They're a comedy of clowns. They are not, no government anywhere. If you look at the European debt crisis, Greece, Spain, Italy, Portugal, the EU is fragmented. All those leaders are doing nothing but producing stupid, non-productive results. Governments are failing everywhere. In China, you know, China demands more economic growth, yet they're having massive power shortages and they're rationing
So they
power.
can't support it.
They're running out of water. China's financial bubble is collapsing. Governments and world leaders everywhere are failing miserably, and it's a Three Stooges comedy. if it weren't for the fact, and it would be a comedy if it weren't for the fact that these people are really dangerous. Like when they're having children go back into schools that they know are
Still
totally lethally contaminated with radiation. Thanks to great thanks to Arnie Gunderson at Fair Winds, Nicole Foss, and the great Helen Caldicott. The government's ordering children back and saying, well,
in Japan here after this.
In Japan, within the
Oh, my Lord.
within a dangerous area, and they're saying, well, it's okay as long as you stay on the blacktop. We've cleaned that.
No.
Arnie Gunderson of Fair Winds said that was unconscionable.
I was going to say, dangerous and deadly.
Well, how dangerous is it to tell the people in the Gulf of Mexico to eat the seafood when people down there are dying hand over fist? They're getting sick, they got skin lesions, their children are getting sick, their hearts are failing, they're getting respiratory diseases. The fish, the mammals, the dolphins, the bird, everything is dying. It's safe. So that's the problem with the dinosaurs of the old paradigm. That's the old species. That's the species that's going extinct.
And basically what I say is, if you decide to follow the dinosaurs, that's what you have ahead of you.
Exactly.
It's more death, destruction,
Exactly.
and blindness.
And nature has no emotion about that. Nature is absolutely an impartial judge on that. So Post-Petroleum Human is here, and this speech was kind of to celebrate that. Because we are coming out of the closet, so to speak. But as I said in the speech, it's not because we're coming out of the closet. It's the closet's rotten with termites and it's falling down, and people can see us. So.
Which is, I imagine for you, a really joyous sense of, you've been laboring under real difficulties for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about seeing yourself now as an elder and a respected elder.
Thank you.
And
yes.
it's time. And it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. You've been a voice crying in the wilderness, as you called your first website. And I hear that confirmation through CollapseNet that you've got people from all kinds of countries, and at levels where people can perhaps make some difference to mitigate the challenges for other people.
Yeah, it's not just CollapseNet. It was definitely the movie.
In the movie.
Collapse.
Right.
But it's also in just seeing the explosion of activity. And one of the things that we do at CollapseNet is on the World News Desk every day. I have to read like anywhere between 80 and 120 stories a day, which if you look at the headlines would make you, that's the very sacred work that I do. I do that first thing in the morning because I have the rest of the day to recover after that. But what's becoming clear is how transparent it is that human industrial civilization is collapsing all around us for myriad reasons, and not that climate collapse, everything else that's happening. But also to become aware of the fact that every now and again this truth ekes out and appears in strange places in the mainstream media or in something, so that you can see that I am supremely confident that barring a complete nuclear holocaust, which is possible now, we could do it over the Middle East because Middle East and North Africa is extremely unstable, and as the revolutions fail and as that becomes unstable, the easy scapegoat is to focus all eyes on Israel. And Israel has earned a fair amount of pushback. I'm sorry, they have, for what they've done to the Palestinian people and everything else. But Israel is a nuclear state.
Yeah, right.
And it will use the nukes. But then we run the same risks over China's aggressive military buildup, building its first aircraft carrier, and political disputes between China and Japan that were well underway over some very small pockets of oil and gas reserves, and the Korean. So nuclear holocaust is on the table, but barring that, if it doesn't happen, I am absolutely convinced today that post-petroleum human will be the ascendant and dominant human species in whatever world emerges from the collapse of industrial civilization.
So for people who feel like, yes, I can get on board with this. Yes, I can come out of the closet, whatever it is, I'm post-petroleum human. What are you seeing? What do you want to see? What are you encouraging for those post-petroleum, for that new species?
Right now, this minute?
Absolutely.
Start growing your own food. Do it right now. Grow your own food. We're that close. I mean, now come on. And I'm not alone with these views. And there's a great many people out here, like the Chris Martinsons, the Nicole Fosses, the Ugo Bardis, the Neil Fergusons. There's a lot of people out here who clearly understand what's happening. But the most, and how imminent it is. It's happening right now as we speak. And as I have said clearly on CollapseNet, the Fukushima Holocaust is far from under control at this point. The containment vessels of 3 reactors have been compromised. You've had partial meltdowns into the water table, at least 2. We know the Japanese government, surprise, surprise, like the American government, is lying about how much radiation there is, how well it's under control. And it's clear that Japan as a nation is mortally wounded.
Wow, that's a strong diagnosis, Doc.
I was there just a few days after the tsunami occurred. It was clear to me, absolutely clear. And the reason for that is, first of all, China's lost nearly 20 gigawatts of electrical power.
Japan.
Yeah, excuse
me.
And industrial civilization doesn't work without electricity, and you cannot have growth, which is required to repay debt, without generating electricity. Now, Japan is the most indebted government in the world, with debt at 200% of GDP. Japan will never return from that. That debt can't be serviced without growth, but now Japan can't even remain stable. Its economy, Zero Hedge did a great story recently. The numbers for the first quarter, which was not a post-Fukushima quarter.
Oh, that's
Fukushima
right.
happened in March. March 10th. For the first quarter was a negative 5.2% GDP.
Yeah.
So, the global economy, the globalized economy, requiring on Japanese components from everyone from Siemens to Texas Instruments to all major auto manufacturers anywhere. The global supply chain is disrupted. Earnings reports are coming out. So Japan is a vital organ.
That's a really beautiful notion of this. Like, you can't live without the liver or whatever that, It's
of the
like
globalized economy, yes. And Japan is mortally wounded. So the whole body is dead.
And we could perhaps say, from the perspective of Mother Earth, hooray. But that's a lot of.
Well, Mother Earth always bats last, and she's the umpire, too. So I'm not too worried about her. But Fukushima is far from under control. And bear in mind, I wrote this 3 days after the tsunami, that if there is a complete catastrophic meltdown at one reactor, then all 6 are doomed. And nobody has ever comprehended 6 reactors, plus the 20 years of spent fuel rods in reactor building number 4. So there's 6 reactors there. Even the shut down ones will go because they've still got the fissile material in there. And if everything else goes, that all the reactors go. And nobody has even comprehended. Helen Caldicott was the most articulate on that. He said, there's nothing we can do about it. It's over. It's done.
Yeah.
That would be a total extinction event, but Mother Earth would come back from that. So we don't know how that's going to play out yet. But the bottom line is that, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change.
Yes, yeah.
And so let me get to working on what I can work on. And that's
Grow food.
Grow food.
What else?
Relocalize. God, relocalize. Get involved in, you cannot, not everybody can make where they live into a community. There's a lot of zombies out there.
Zombies? What's a zombie?
A zombie is someone who still believes in infinite growth, who still believes that there'll be a comeback, that there are more resources, that everything will be fine. This is just a momentary blip. It's a cyclical thing, and gee, can I get my nails done and check my 401k? That's a zombie, okay? That's a zombie is someone who thinks, oh, gee, well, we can just switch to hydrogen, which you can't. I'm not going there again. Hydrogen's already been thoroughly killed. Okay, or we can
all the renewables can do it. All the alternatives can do it.
Or we can vote for the Democrats, or whatever. Zombies, absolutely brain dead people who don't understand and don't get it. Zombies are welcome to die. Don't mind. That's not my species. I'm a post-petroleum human. Okay.
So relocalize.
Relocalize.
Because you may not have community.
And
where
you need
are.
family, and you need community. And one of the things that we're trying to do at CollapseNet is that for our members, we have this interactive map where all of our members are plotted. So let's say you live in zip code 12345. You would sign up and you would answer a questionnaire that tells about who you are, what you do, what skills you have, won't identify your name, won't give away your address, but then boom, then you get plotted and all the other people who are of your species around you. So you don't have to argue. All then that's left for you to do is just help each other.
Find each other.
And yeah.
Then that helps you do that.
And I have to say the Transition US is doing that. All the transition initiatives around the country, Collapse Net, we've gone to great lengths to support them. And I did on my radio show too. And so there's a lot of this taking place. And what we do at Collapse Net also is we have this free directory, 1,400 listings in the Lighthouse directory.
What kind of things?
Okay, many different categories. Some would be how to insulate or use less energy in your house. One would be maybe how to solar your house. And there's tons of options within each of those categories. Permaculture, organic gardening, but there's also emotional stuff, there's spiritual stuff, there's psychological stuff, there's stuff on everything from firearms to first aid, and all kinds of things where people have been checklists for what to do if, and things you need to prepare for. I mean, it's a really useful, a lot of people have been preparing this for a long time and compiling the information, and nobody really realized how much information was out there and how much people had been doing. So that's one of the things we do at Collapse Net is kind of open the door into this whole new universe, so you can go wherever you need to go.
That is.
Because a lot of people have been working really hard at this, and we want to honor them and really expose them, because we don't know how strong we are, how much we actually know. We're actually much further along toward dominance than we actually know.
That's a heartening piece, that's because this has all evolved so quickly. I mean, this is a very short period of time here.
I think it was Buckminster Fuller, who I admire greatly. It's either him or Alvin Toffler, who said that the new paradigm is dominant long time before the old one even knows it's dead.
Here we are. Here we are. Post-Petroleum Human.
That's us.
Thank you.
That's us.
Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
folks, you're watching Peak Moment. We're part of that Post-Petroleum Human component, and you are too. Join us next time. I'm with Michael C. Ruppert, the man behind Collapse Net and the man behind Confronting Collapse, and here we are.
And I'm also a singer-songwriter too.
Oh, right. Sing for us?
Not now.
Join us next time.
Pay me.